Hello, so this is our first Critical Friends Group meeting number 1 report. Our group members were Deidre Edgar, Deborah Hernandez, Carolina Martinez, Yasmin Rivera. When and how was the meeting held? The meeting was held on February 8th at Barnes & Noble at the Fountains. The participants again were myself, Debbie Hernandez, Deidre Edgar, Yasmin Rivera, and Carolina Martinez. The roles: facilitator was Yasmin Rivera, timekeeper was Deidre Edgar, reporter was Debbie Hernandez, and of course these roles will be alternated each meeting. So we started about 7:15 and we ended about 8:20. And we decided to put this report in the order of passion. So we started with passion number 3, which is the focus on developing content knowledge. This was Yasmin Rivera's passion. So one of the discussions we had came with Yasmin's wondering statement and her concern of content knowledge that her students were receiving. She stated that she was no longer so involved with the math content as she had been considered now an elective teacher. And so she was more concerned about the content knowledge that her students were coming in with. So this falls under Passion 3, as Dana and Yendel Hoppy state that in order for this passion to be looked at, it was a 3-step process, with the first being the proposed question, which was for Yasmin: what hands-on activities can be done to make a function, whether it's linear, quadratic, or exponential, more relatable? She mentioned how the students didn't see the connections in the content, and she really wanted them to make those connections and see the relevance that they had in more real world situations. So in order for her to gain more content knowledge, she's going to have to go into the next 2 steps of this passion, which are, according to Dana and Yendel Hoppy, looking into resources that are going to inform her question, and then she's going to finally have to figure out how she's going to be able to implement those resources and make them developmentally appropriate content for her students. The next passion was Passion 4, desire to improve or experiment with teaching strategies and teaching techniques. This is my passion. So this falls into my question of how to improve comprehension strategies of my students in AP World History. So I mentioned that there were a lot of misconceptions for students who are in advanced academics in terms of their comprehension skills. Deidre had agreed and said that this reminded her of her own experiences in high school, where she also had difficulty in history classes because of the comprehension. So I had mentioned to her hopefully that these new learning strategies would help to improve my students' growth in comprehension. And since this is a systematic study, and this actually lends itself to, being very aware of the study. Hopefully, I'll be able to implement strategies that are able to assist and enrich and improve the comprehension of my students. Had this not been, according to Dana and Yendel Hoppy, a systematic study, I may not have been able, or may not have realized what other strategies are available to improve my students' learning. The next passion is also Passion 4, and that's with Carolina Rivera. We discovered that her wondering statement was: how does using quality language in Spanish children's literature impact emergent bilingual students in learning? So she had mentioned how in the classrooms, the vocabulary in Spanish literature was not as rigorous, or we kind of said it was like watered down, the language, the vocabulary. And she also felt that the quality of literature was limited. So she explained how in a dual language classroom, how she could find a lesson in English and it be, very rigorous for the student, whereas if she'd find a similar lesson in Spanish, it wouldn't be as much of quality lesson because of the language. So hopefully her teacher inquiry into this quality language in children's Spanish literature, she'll be able to discover more quality literature that will be able to provide improved instruction in her class and enrich the students' learning. The last passion was Passion 5 that we discussed. That's the desire to explore the relationship between your beliefs and practices. This was Deidre Edgar's passion, and it falls into her wondering statement. So she was concerned about how her teaching philosophy, her classroom management, and cross curricular lessons, how she could put that into her Spanish class, which leads to her wondering, how do I provide the same structure in core classes in a Spanish class and provide cross curricular lessons in language other than English? And of course, according to Dana and Yendel Hoppy, this passion requires a lot of self reflection. And how does your teaching philosophy and looking at your teaching philosophy, how is that implemented in your classroom management and your day to day practice? So we said for her it was going to be interesting because she was actually going to begin her first year teaching very soon. And it was going to be interesting to see how congruent these two things were, how her philosophy and her classroom management were going to align very well, if they were going to align well, if there needed to be adjustments. And of course, we provided her with some classroom management advice, but in the end, we let her know ultimately that this was her classroom and it was important to make sure that, you know, her beliefs and her management were in sync with each other. So the final conclusions that we have were that we all agree that our wondering statements fit into our school district and state guidelines. We can see this through our individual professional development, especially through this teacher inquiry that we're going to take on. Additionally, we can see this through our student learning objectives that are mandated by um, TEA. So we'll also be able to see if this fits in and how it will fit in well into those student learning objectives. Additionally, we said, of course, it fits with our school's improvement plan because it allows for student growth. It's going to show students different ways in terms of providing a more enriched learning environment for them. And of course, it's also going to help them with passing their end of course exams. So that essentially was our meeting for our first meeting, and we look forward to seeing how much we develop in our teacher inquiry in our next meeting. Thank you.